Solar 3.0 has been melting everything these past few months, but Season 17 is coming to an end, which means as always, like every season here on the channel, it's time to conclude that build playlist. So today, we'll be looking at the top 3 builds from Season 17 that you could potentially use in Season 18. And these builds are what I personally think are the best from Season of the Haunted, in order, and for PvE. The builds here will also be optimised for usage next season, and well, any season in the future, as they won't rely on specific seasonal mods, but there will be cards on screen if you want to make them the best right now for the remainder of Season 17. All timestamps and dim links are in the description. And now guys, don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe and share, and now let's start our top 3. So firstly, I will mention that the full playlist of all builds this season is linked down below, and the new playlist for Season 18 will be out very soon, so keep an eye out on that here on the channel. But guys, I do also want to mention that the builds shown here are recorded from Season 17, where we have things like classy restoration to make builds better. But when I go through the preview of how the builds work, it will be optimized so that you can use the build in any season, and use this as a starting base build, sort of like a template, and then you can make them better using seasonal mods from the relevant season that you're playing in. So first up, in third place, we have our Warlock Fusion build featuring Starfire Protocol. Now when the early days of Solar 3.0 kicked off back in May, Warlocks didn't have the best start to having a good solo build, but as players progressed through and unlocked new artifact mods and subclass fragments, things changed a lot. So with this build you will be able to run around with infinite fusion grenades which ignite adds, and I'm not kidding, they literally light them up like it's some sort of firework display, because you can run around chaining between your rift and grenades over and over to have a good source of DPS. And I've used this build in multiple GMs, and it just completely obliterates everything. So the way you'll use this build is first use either your rift or your grenade to then get the other ability back. Getting a grenade kill will always get your rift back, and then getting kills while in the rift will get your grenade back. But each grenade kill spawns a solar elemental well, which will boost your solar weapon's damage. So having a good solar scout or something in a GM would work really well with this build to increase your DPS, alongside the empowering rift and font of might stacked together. Now you might not have things like classy restoration, but that's completely fine, because this build is more of a solar damage and ignition build more than a healing one. So getting into the setup of this build, the first thing you want to use are solar weapons to increase the DPS of those weapons. Then you'll run the super of your choice along with an empowering rift and a fusion grenade. Aspects are touch of flame and heat rises. Fragments are ember of char, ember of solace, ember of ashes, and ember of eruption. Basically your fusion grenade becomes a mini nuke in close combat. The exotic we have is Starfire Protocol so that we can get an extra fusion grenade, and so it can recharge our rift on kills. And then the mods are elemental ordnance to spawn solar wells on grenade kills, elemental armaments for extra wells, well of life for a bit of regen, and font of might for increased weapon DPS. Then seasonal mods you'll want are your champion ones in the arms, resist mods in the chest, and any new ones that you have for the class like classy restoration. But other than that, these stats you'll want to max out are resilience to 100, and then discipline if you can as well. You'll mostly use this build in things like a solo Legend of Master Lost Sector, or a Master or Grandmaster Nightfall, which are the best places to use it, because you'll want to use your grenade on tough minor adds, as that's how we're using the build to gain buffs and produce a good amount of DPS. Guys, honestly, give this one a try and let me know what you think of it down below. Now in second place we have the OP Hunter Radiant DPS build. If you think Titans and Warlocks are good, well Hunters are just as good. With this build you'll be able to run around permanently staying Radiant, giving you more DPS output, while benefiting from other buffs like Restoration when needed. This build is worth using in all types of content including GMs, but if you want to make the most out of the buffs with this build, then I'd limit it to activities that have tough bosses, but easy adds to kill, so things like a raid or low tier Nightfall. Now the way you'll use this build is first start by dodging. This will activate Radiant, which will increase your damage. Then you'll get a solar weapon kill to spawn a void well, and picking up that well will give you damage resist while extending the timer of radiant on each kill. Get a knife kill to refund your knife and spawn a solar well. Ideally get a precision shot to then recharge your dodge. Picking up the solar well will increase your DPS further, and then you'll just repeat the same thing over and over to always stay buffed in endgame PvE. If you're close to death, throw your healing grenade to trigger restoration, which also on every solar weapon kill, you extend the duration of that timer. So there is quite a lot going on with this build, but to end the build, you want to make yourself radiant by dodging, and then use your Goldie super for boss damage. Honestly, a really good build, and you can use either the Goldie or Blade Barrage, whatever suits your needs. So going over the setup of this one, you'll first want to run solar weapons. This is required for extra DPS, then the super of your choice along with a new dodge, the throwing knife, and a healing grenade. Aspects are knock them down and on your mark, so that we can get 5 fragment slots. And then those fragments are Ember of Imperium, Ember of Solace, Ember of Benevolence, Ember of Torches, and Ember of Singeing. These will all play a part in boosting the uptime of your buffs. The exotic will be either Celestial or Shards of Galley depending on what you're running. Just remember to get resilience to 100 with mobility and strength if you can. And then the mods are going to be Elemental Armaments to make solar wells, Font of Might to boost your solar weapon DPS, Melee Wellmaker to also spawn wells, Reaping Wellmaker to spawn void wells, and then Well of Tenacity to take less damage when picking up that void well. Artifact mods will depend on what you get in the season. So in the gauntlets you want your champion mods, in the chest you want your resist mods, and then in the class run things like a classy restoration or anything that will benefit the build further. Honestly, a really good hunter build that you should use if you ever run solar, regardless of the season and seasonal mods. And now lastly in first place, this wouldn't be a top 3 without our OP Titan Restoration build. Now the classy restoration artifact mod really did become overkill, especially because, well, all you need to do is activate your class ability, which with most characters doesn't have a long cooldown. Now you can run this build with all sorts of exotics like Heart of Inmost Light, but the best exotic to run is no surprise, Splendor Helm. So this thing will automatically throw down a sunspot when you go critical, and with the Saw and Victor's subclass aspect, it will grant restoration, which essentially makes this build the best build in the game, at least in my opinion, for survivability, because you really just cannot die even if you're bad or AFK. As long as you can get the class ability back before the previous one expires, then you're good. So the way you'll use this build is first get a kill with your hammer to trigger Radiant. This will give you extra DPS while spawning a solar well and sunspot, which triggers restoration when passing through. Throw more hammers to buff your ability damage and spawn more solar wells, which will then increase your solar weapons damage. From here just melt everything with your solar weapons, and then the moment that you're close to dying, your exotic will automatically save you with a sunspot. It's literally that simple. Just run around like a god because restoration will keep you safe, but assuming you're in a GM, make ads weak first and then get the final blow of your hammer. Or you can just use your hammer on tough ads, champions and bosses to give yourself Radiant, which will also give your teammates Radiant as well. Either way, it's one of the best builds to increase DPS while effectively increasing your survivability at the same time. Now to set this one up, firstly make sure you're using solar weapons to increase your damage, then you'll run the super of your choice, the Rally Barricade as it has a faster cooldown, the Throwing Hammer, and either a solar or healing grenade. Aspects are Saw Invictus, so sunspots apply restoration, and Roaring Flames to make your abilities stronger. Fragments are Ember of Eruption. I'm actually only using this for the extra strength, so you should really use this one instead to increase the duration of your effects. Otherwise, Ember of Singeing, Ember of Torches, and Ember of Solace. The exotic we have is Splendor Helm to create sunspots that heal us when we go critical, and then the mods we're using are Reaping Wellmaker to spawn void wells, Well of Tenacity to reduce the damage we take when picking them up, Melee Wellmaker to spawn solar wells, Font of Might to use those solar wells for increased DPS, and Radiant Light to increase my strength stat. Seasonal mods you'll use are the champion ones in the arms, damage resist mods in the chest, and then any good new mods in the class. Otherwise, use a utility kickstart or two, and make sure you have 100 resilience so that you can get the barricade back with 100% uptime. This build has to be by far my favourite build in Destiny 2, that is up there with my Hunter Void build, and overall one of the best builds in the game that makes endgame PvE easy mode. And guys, you should definitely be using this build. Of course though, use a better Lorelei helmet that ain't a terrible stat like mine. Now if it's not solar builds you're looking for, then stay tuned here on the channel because I do cover new and updated builds every week and every season, and you guys might just find your new best build for whatever season you're playing in. So guys, that is your top 3 builds this season and the top 3 builds that you should get ready for season 18. As always, if you do like these videos and you want to see more like these, then don't forget to stay tuned here on the channel, and while you're there, perhaps check out the playlist link down below so that you can give your characters more builds to choose from. And lastly, I just want to say a big thank you for all the support on these build videos this season, as we are now closing the season 17 playlist and preparing to open the season 18 one. So guys, thank you all so much. You've all been amazing. Stay tuned, and I'll see you guys very soon for season 18 because it's gonna get arky. Is that even a word? Just roll the outro already.